The circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Wind gusts up to 40, 50 miles per hour.
Structures are falling apart around us.
It feels like little pins and needles.
We're looking at the worst conditions that we've seen since we came ashore.
There are so many potentially catastrophic aspects, but there are beach communities in there, and they're likely to be devastated.
All right, if that doesn't get your attention, I'll tell you what. Welcome to Hurricane HQ&A. I'm Bob Van Dillen here with Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Bryan Norcross. Great to see you, Bryan, as always.
Good to be here.
Yeah, listen, we've got a full hour of answering your questions right now, your burning questions about the 2026 hurricane season. And just a reminder, we're taking questions live right now. You can scan that QR code on the bottom part of your screen when it pops up, and you have your answers right there from Bryan Norcross. He will have them for you live. So let's get to the first question, everybody. We got this one earlier today. Bryan, the question is the hurricane season going to be as bad as last year's hurricane season? That's $1 million question,
Yeah,
right?
right. And of course, depends on where you are, right? If you're in Jamaica, you can't imagine it being as bad as last year's season. But in the U.S., of course, we didn't have any landfalls, but we did have effects along the Carolina coast from the big storms moving north just offshore. So if you had to put odds on it for the U.S. this season, odds are will be worse because we did not have any landfall. So any landfall, tropical storm, hurricane, Category 1 hurricane, any landfall can be very, very bad, just depending on how quickly it's moving, how big it is, how much moisture there is, and so forth.
All right, so Caleb from Mattoon, Illinois, thank you very much for that question. And yeah, I mean, it all depends clearly on where you're going to be. So we've got questions coming in. There's your QR code right across the bottom. Hurricane season, that's such a loaded question. It's one we all want to know. Is it going to be as bad? We got the El Nino. We know we've got that. We also have the forecast coming in from FSU. We'll have that in just a little bit too. But here's from James Gomez, Palm Coast. Do the ocean currents have any role in creating hurricanes, and does the lack of cold water upwelling from last year due to zero landfalls play an important role as well? Those are good questions.
So I think the second answer is no, that over the last year, over the winter, the wind blowing over the surface of the ocean has just churned up the ocean and so forth. Right now, there you can see out toward Africa, the water is very cool. In fact, it's the coolest it's been in quite a long time there. It's plenty warm over the Gulf and around Florida and the Caribbean. And of course, that's where we look earlier in the season. Do the ocean currents play any role? In the sense that the ocean currents kind of direct where the warm water is flowing? The answer to that is yes, when the hurricane or a storm tracks over extra warm water, especially extra warm deep water, and this really comes into play in the Gulf. Because remember how Dylan, I don't know if you have something that shows the geography in the Gulf, the water, because caused by the circulation of the earth, comes through the Caribbean and then goes up between Mexico and Cuba, right? And then it hangs a hard right through the Straits of Florida. Well, it doesn't all turn right. Some of it goes up into the Gulf, and it turns into these eddies in the Gulf, pockets of very warm water. So if the storm happens to go over one of those pockets, then it can really intensify, because that's a lot of energy there. That's what happened in 2005 with Katrina. It just happened to go over this super warm spot, and so did Rita. As a matter of fact, it was just kind of dumb luck that the pool of warm water happened to be where those storms went.
And that loop current is always there.
It's always there to some degree. And where the core of the loop current is, or that pocket of warm water is, varies, because it kind of drifts around and then it dies out, and then another one forms over time. But
and I had asked you before too. We've got so much rain in the Gulf, but it's not really the rain; it's all the wind.
it's the
going on
wind,
there
yeah.
Right now.
So when you get a cold front coming down, and the wind comes from the north, pushes the warm water away from the coast, cools the coastal waters. I mean, the rain only has an effect in that it's cloudy when it's raining,
Right,
obviously.
right.
So the cloudier it is, the less sun hits the Gulf water, especially the shallow Gulf water near the coast. So it tends to be cooler.
Great. We got another one for you, Brian, from Austin right here. How many hurricanes does the entire United States Gulf Coast get on an average year? That's a good question. Now we're talking about regionality.
Yeah. So I don't know what the average is, to tell you the truth, but it is very variable. So we've had this whole spate of storms hitting the Gulf Coast recently. That's unusual in an average sense. It's not unusual, though, to have the hurricanes come in clumps and all go to the Gulf for a while.
Right.
There was a time when they all went to Florida, it seemed like. And another time, by the way, we're here in New York at 1953, 54, 55, and 60. They were all coming up here. So, you know, it happens in clumps. In fact, there were 6 hurricanes in 54 and 55 in 2 years. 6 hurricanes in 2 years all came this way.
Right.
So it can happen, you know. So it's, I don't know, is there a number you can get there?
Yeah, how many hurricanes a
I don't
year?
know. But there you see around the coast
It seems like
where the hurricanes more often happen. And if you notice South Florida, you know, that's kind of a hot
pretty
spot.
hot zone. Yeah, you know, I remember Florida had a kick me sign on them for what, 2023, 24. So
Well, and 2004, 2005,
Yeah.
where there were 6 storms in Florida in those 2 years.
so there you go. So Florida, just about everybody in the peninsula, and even
Well,
across
Florida's got a big coastline
Really
too,
does.
and it's exposed earlier in the year to storms coming from the Atlantic, and it's exposed later in the year to storms coming into the Gulf. So, you know, what can you do?
Yeah. All right, next question for you, Brian, from Jen in Denver, Colorado. If you had to choose just one forecast model to rely on, which one would you choose? And now I guess there's a caveat since we're talking about AI modeling in there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't, you know, you can't go away from the Google DeepMind model based on what we saw last year. Now that model has been upgraded to some degree. Now there are 1,000 members in the ensembles that they run. So they run it 1,000 times and then take the average of that 1,000. We haven't seen that in performance yet, right? Because we just got our first tropical storm in the Pacific. So we'll see. The assumption is that like in that area there that you see, there's actually 1,000 lines that make that kind of a coney looking thing in the Google model. So if I had to pick one, that's what I would use.
You're going to go AI DeepMind, even for strength at this point?
I mean, across the board, because what it's going to give you, it's going to give you the range of the strength possibilities. And when you run it 1,000 times, you know, we have to learn how to use it. I'm not saying that we just jump in there and take some sort of absolute answer, but we're learning to. We've never seen a 1,000-member model before, right?
So it's interesting. So,
but there you see. Look at the green line there. That's the Google model performance. Or it's the red line. What am I saying? The red line at the bottom. So the lower on that graph, the better the performance. And you see the red line was where the Google model was. I should say, just because we're being journalists here, that I had a minor consulting role and trusted tester role with Google. But I didn't have anything to do with making the model. It's the amazing scientists at Google DeepMind that did that and continue to do it.
It's great. It's just another tool that we love, and this one's really turning on strong. Patty from San Francisco, is a hurricane season. It is hurricane season in the South. I wonder if we have ever had both a hurricane and tornado at the same time on the same day, and I can tell you the answer is I got hit by both in less than an hour.
Yeah, not that long ago, right? I mean, in Milton.
It's a great question.
Which was a really... Milton was unusual in a lot of ways. Remember, Milton happened in October. So when you get to October, you're starting to get northern influences. You have this hurricane running into cooler air aloft and stronger winds in the atmosphere and so forth. So yeah, you have the track of Milton, but we had this incredible tornado outbreak with devastating tornadoes.
So yeah, it's the hurricane where the spiraling rain bands came in, formed tornadoes. So the answer to your question is, Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Absolutely.
And I got plowed by one that was on Cocoa Beach. Next question.
And every
Yeah.
once in a while, by the way, you can have a lot of them. Ivan, for example, in 2004 produced a tremendous number in the South.
All right, so this one, another regionality. Which state has been hit by the most hurricanes, and how many hurricanes was it, if you know offhand? Baylor from Floresville wants to know.
I don't know. Dylan over there may have a graphic that shows that, but it's Florida, because Florida has and Miami, as far as a city, is the most. And I want to say, it depends on what you call hit, right?
Yeah, right. Brushing or a direct impact, landfall.
Right. Well, these are the counties, so you can see that it shows return. The return period means how long before it comes back again. Yeah. So it shows Monroe County, but Monroe County, that's misleading, because most of Monroe County is the Everglades, where very few people live. There are a couple little areas on the West Coast, and we think of Monroe County as being the Keys. Yeah. Right. But it's not just the Keys in this case. It counts Southwest Florida. So Monroe County is a little misleading. But if you noticed, in terms of the populated, highly populated areas, Miami-Dade County is number one there, because in the first 7 decades, up through the 60s, from the aughts to the 60s and the 20th century, 7 hurricanes went over downtown Miami. Just downtown. That's not ones that went over south and north and Fort Lauderdale. And that's over downtown. 7 eyes in 7 decades went over downtown. So they kind of racked up the stats back then.
If you go way back, my mother-in-law got me a book called Low Country Hurricanes. And it started in the 1600s. So if you go way on back, it's tough to tell, but Florida clearly is one of them. So that's a question.
Well, somebody asked a question about Charleston. I'll ask the question. Do you know, because you know about the Low Country? Yeah. You know, what's the city that had a hurricane and an earthquake back to back?
Oh, it was Charleston.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
1885 and 1886.
1886. It was right. So there we go. So we got some more trivia for you coming up. Hey, keep those questions coming. We got the QR code right there. We appreciate you being here for our Hurricane HQ, and everybody, stay where you are. We got more answers live coming up right after the break. We appreciate it.
Strengthening overnight into a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane.
So many catastrophic aspects.
That's a top 10 storm on record. This is a monster storm.
It is.
Brutal conditions right now. Intense hurricane force winds. We're looking at the worst conditions that we've seen since it came ashore.
It feels like little pins and needles.
We need to be prepared. You know, the hardworking folks over here are saving lives.
There's some good news in the extended forecast.
Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ. Presented by Belfour Property Restoration, restoring more than property.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure, and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock-bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
I can't sleep because my feet are on fire.
Feels like a sunburn under my skin.
It's like lightning bolts down my leg.
Now you can have cooling, soothing comfort where you need it most with Hempana Nerve Relief, a non-steroidal topical pain reliever designed for fast relief of shooting pains, muscle aches, tingling, and numbness from nerve pain. No pills, no complicated treatments, just targeted relief you apply directly where it hurts. Hempana Nerve Relief, available at Walmart, Hempana.com, CVS, and on Amazon with free shipping.
Are you one of 70 million Americans suffering from poor sleep every night? Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. In my 50 years as a journalist, I've never endorsed a national product, but this one has made such a difference that I have to do it. It's called Relaxium Sleep, America's #1 doctor-developed sleep aid. Now, I've reviewed the research, and since I've started taking Relaxium myself, I can tell you it works. A great night's sleep is the foundation of your health. Without it, your energy plummets, your focus fades, and your mood suffers. And over time, your very quality of life can be stolen from you. Relaxium Sleep was created by a clinical neurologist, has been studied, tested, and trusted to work. It is non-habit forming. It's made in the USA.
As a clinical neurologist, I know how essential sleep is for building and nourishing both your mental and physical health. Relaxium Sleep's multi-ingredient triple action formula helps to regulate the natural sleep cycle, relax the body, and calm the mind. Its ingredients address the root causes of sleeplessness and is guaranteed to work the very first night.
Relaxium helps me fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, wake up refreshed. And for a guy like me, always on a go, a good night's sleep is very important.
I'm so incredibly thankful that for nearly 2 decades now, Relaxium Sleep has been changing millions of lives. If you're experiencing sleepless nights or tossing and turning, you need to try Relaxium Sleep now and improve your quality of life.
So why are we still talking about this? Why haven't you picked up the phone? Get your best night of sleep guaranteed. Please call now. Get your first bottle risk-free. Let's make America sleep again.
Bill O'Reilly is so confident that Relaxium Sleep will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles today. Get your risk-free bottle of Relaxium Sleep now. Visit TryRelaxium.com or call 800-909-0488. That's TryRelaxium.com or call 800-909-0488.
All right, welcome back to Hurricane HQ&A. I'm Bob Van Dillen. Great discussions, everybody. I've got our hurricane specialist, Bryan Norcross, right here. Brian, it's great to see you. And good discussions about the upcoming 2026 hurricane season. And let's get to this one right there. And don't forget, you can ask your own question by scanning the QR code when it pops on up, and we'll send it right over to Brian. He'll answer for you. But this is a great question right here. Some discussion during the break. I want to show you this. With the EPAC, the Eastern Pacific, starting to get active, is there any signs or concerns a storm from the Pacific may cross over into the Gulf of America, thus hitting the United States coastline? Great question.
Well, let me put it this way. There's no reason to think that's going to happen. It does occasionally happen that it crosses over, but almost always it's not actually the storm that crosses over. It's just the kind of remnants of the storm. Sometimes a mid-level circulation crosses over. And Bob asked the really good follow-up question, it's obvious. Yeah. How about the name, right? And that actually happened just a few years ago. We had an Agatha that turned into an Alex, but because the low-level circulation, it's got over mountains. Right. So there are only a very few places in Central America, from Mexico down to Central America, and in extreme southern Mexico, for example, where there aren't mountains.
Yeah, where it shoot a gap.
Right, it shoots a gap, right? So the low-level circulation, if it's going over the mountains, is always going to get disrupted, so it changes the name. So there is no concern about that based on what's going on right now. We may very well, in the EastPac, have 2 storms develop not far offshore of Central America and Mexico, and especially the Central American one, the one called just offshore of Central America, that looks like it has the best chance of getting pretty strong and staying very parallel or near the Mexican coast as it moves to the north. But it's pretty quickly going to run into cold water.
Right.
So
that's a 50% shot, though, right? That's the orange shade right here. It just popped up.
Right. And you don't really see much down there, but the models insist that's by the weekend, early next week, going to be, a storm offshore of Mexico.
And then we have Amanda, which we're not concerned with Hawaii at this point.
No, this is just going to die out there in the big gap between Mexico and Hawaii.
All right, we got some more questions rolling in too. Don't forget, you got the QR code down there. From Adam in Roanoke, Virginia, what major U.S. coastal cities are either most at risk and most unprepared for a direct strike from a major hurricane? Now, this is a terrific question.
It is. So let's start with the question, what's the most vulnerable city to a major hurricane? Mm-hmm. And I go back and forth on this between Tampa and Houston. So both because they have a big bay that acts like a catcher's mitt. Mm-hmm. And if the storm moves just to the left of the entrance to either Tampa Bay, in other words, just north of Tampa, or down Galveston Island, then the water is coming into the bay. Yeah. And then that water's got to go somewhere, right? In the case of Tampa, it floods. So the 1921 Tampa hurricane, for example, flooded a good part of St. Petersburg, and downtown Tampa has been flooded by hurricanes in the distant past, like big time flooding all around Tampa Bay. So it's extremely vulnerable. There's so much low-lying land there. In Houston, you have a different thing. You have all that, plus you have the petrochemical industry there.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So the water comes into Galveston Bay, and it floods the refineries and all that, and then you have this super polluted water that's going up and into downtown Houston, up the Buffalo Bayou, which is the drainage system that normally brings the water out. And then if it's raining hard, that water coming in doesn't allow water to come out, so you end up with a big freshwater flood on top of it. So Houston
and Tampa.
Extremely vulnerable. And of course, New Orleans has its issues and Miami has its issues.
Exactly. Now, next one from Jacob from Alma, Michigan. What are the odds of some homegrown storms developing in the next month? And this is something we always worry about.
Yeah, so the odds this year, as far out as we can see, are low. Not zero. Two things are happening maybe toward the middle of the month-ish. One is that this flow that we have coming now out of the Caribbean, all that moisture just streaming to the north. There you see the long-range projection. You see the green there in the Gulf of Mexico, indicating that the Climate Prediction Center folks are saying a high chance of extra precipitation there. And it's the high pressure offshore, and it's driving the moisture north. Now, the other thing is we have this thing called the MJO, which is Madden-Julian oscillation, which when it comes by in its sort of positive sense, then it can enhance development. And that is forecast to move over the Gulf around the middle of the month or so. So that combination is why they're saying enhanced thunderstorm activity. Now, that doesn't mean tropical, right?
Just because rising air from the MJO.
Rising air from the MJO and rain is what that means. But if the upper level weather pattern with the strong winds is not conducive at the moment at all, and in the forecast, it's not forecast to become conducive. But sometimes you get a little bubble that it makes it just for a moment. So I would say the odds of anything homegrown and affecting the U.S. are very low, probably 10%-ish, maybe 15%, but somewhere in that range. Not zero, but very unlikely.
I also love that question came from Michigan.
Yeah, yes, right.
That's great stuff.
Well, all these people, Illinois.
Illinois, you guys are great. So Danny asks, do you think the frequency or rapidly intensifying storms will continue to increase?
Yeah, indications are that one thing that a warmer planet does do is have storms rapidly intensify more often. So I think the answer to that is yes, based on everything we know.
Coming up. All right, which gets you the next question, too. Don't forget, you got your QR code down in the bottom. Susan from Wisconsin, what do you think the next big advancement will be for hurricane prediction? And you were talking about this in a meeting just a couple days ago. So this is a great question right here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's very likely that most of our hurricane forecasting is going to be with AI models going forward, and most of our weather forecasting will be with AI models. Now, there's still a role for the physics-based models for, at least the next few years.
Physics-based being the Euro and
the GFS and the UK Met and the other ones where they're actually trying to simulate the physics of the atmosphere with all the equations and so forth, and they run them on these supercomputers. But the AI models, as they get trained better, and I think what's going to happen is going to be emerging that they're going to use some of the high resolution physics models, like what's called the HAVS-A or the HAVS model, which is the NOAA's high resolution hurricane model. They're going to use that, I think, to teach the AI about higher resolution things. So we're going to get more and more and more out of the AI models. I mean, I'm going to be fascinated to see what the Google DeepMind scientists come up with for this season, besides the 1,000 members. Because it was out of the box. Kind of the basic version was super successful last year.
So and the more at-bats those storms see, right? The more at-bats, the better they're going to get.
Well, and the more kind of high definition stuff they put in the model, too, to train it.
All right, so from Miami, what's the most devastating hurricane that you have reported on? And I know this one.
Yeah. Well, no, it's definitely Hurricane Andrew. Things happened during Hurricane Andrew in 1992. that we just don't see very often in hurricanes. You know, the 2x4s flying through the air and penetrating palm trees.
Right.
And plywood flying through the air and slicing through palm trees. Cars in the garage, both of them flipped over, right? Just imagine the forces that were going on to make that happen. Now, you know, we've had horrible Category 5 hurricanes and so forth, but I've only ever seen 2x4s penetrating palm trees in one other storm, and I wasn't around for it. The 1928 hurricane in Puerto Rico.
You were not around.
No, that was, well, I was young, but that one, there are photographs of in Puerto Rico. It was Category 5 over the entire island of Puerto Rico. It was Maria kind of damage, but with even stronger winds.
Yeah.
That one, actually, there are photographs of a 2x4 through a palm tree.
You see that with tornadoes.
With tornadoes, right.
Wide-scale hurricane.
But if you think about it, with Andrew or these other storms, especially Andrew was a very gusty storm, because it was intensifying as it came ashore. You had gusts over 200 miles an hour. You had EF5 gusts.
Yeah, unbelievable for a wide stretch. So stick around, everybody. We've got more of your questions answered from our hurricane expert right here. He's our specialist, Bryan Norcross. We'll be right back. Thanks for being here.
Strengthening overnight into a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane.
So many catastrophic aspects.
That's a top 10 storm on record. This is a monster storm.
It is.
Brutal conditions right now. Intense hurricane force winds. We're looking at the worst conditions that we've seen since it came ashore.
It feels like little pins and needles.
We need to be prepared. You know, the hardworking folks over here are saving lives.
There's some good news in the extended forecast.
Fox Weather, your Hurricane HQ. Presented by Belfour Property Restoration, restoring more than property.
Tired of struggling with that heavy leaf blower? It's so bulky and hard to use. Introducing the Bullseye Power Blower. It delivers a massive blowing force, and yet it's so compact and lightweight, under 2 pounds. Look at the raw power create a tidal wave of leaves and debris. It's like having a jet engine in the palm of your hand to clean faster and easier than ever. Forget big blower hassles. Now just grab, go, and blow to effortlessly clean any area. Just lock and load the rechargeable battery for long-lasting runtime. We measured the wind speed of this bulky blower at 20 miles per hour, but Bullseye blows away the competition at 55 miles per hour. Cleaning gutters with a big corded blower is impossible, but Bullseye makes it easy. The secret is the compact turbocharged motor with proprietary jet burst technology that blasts out 21,000 RPMs of high-capacity airflow, easily knocking down these heavy bricks from afar. Just like a car wash blower, the force of Bullseye can dry your car in minutes, so it shines like new. Even blows snow right off your vehicle in no time. Sweeping is hard work, but Bullseye clears out crevices with zero effort. Turbo clean your porch in a flash, or tidy up your dirty garage floor in seconds. Watch this. The sheer force propels this woman across the pool. And check this out. Even use Bullseye to blow up a huge jump house. Now that's a crazy amount of air. A big bulky blower can cost $200. But get the Bullseye Compact Power Blower today for just $99.99. But wait, act now and get a $20 discount. So it's only $79.99. Plus, you'll get the extension tube with flat power nozzle to boost your range even further. Choose the best length for any situation. Yours free. And it all comes with free shipping. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-329-3689 or go to bullseyeblower.com. Call 1-800-329-3689. That's 1-800-329-3689 or order online at bullseyeblower.com. Order now.
Behind this curtain is an outdated bath and shower. Imagine transforming this eyesore into a beautiful jacuzzi bath remodel in as little as one day.
Are there a lot of design options?
Yes, Jacuzzi has stylish shower walls, designer colors, and premium features like soft closed doors.
Call right now and Jacuzzi will waive installation costs with no interest and no payments for up to a year.
Just step right into your easy entry shower by Jacuzzi. We have durable grab bars, grab shelves.
This is a great safety feature. I love this. It's really beautiful. The quality of it, I'm blown away.
Best of all, it's from Jacuzzi, the most trusted name in water for over 70 years.
Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com. We're waiving all installation costs, plus zero interest and zero payments for up to 1 year.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-760-4654.
Welcome back into Hurricane HQ today, everybody. Bob Van Dillen, along with our hurricane specialist, Bryan Norcross, and we're going international. A little German flavor for you with this question right there. We appreciate it. Janik from Wiesbaden, Germany, asks, what are the largest and smallest eyes ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin?
Well, the interesting thing is that the largest one is a little bit hard, but the smallest one is easy. It's Hurricane Wilma in 2005. The eye was less than 2.5 miles across. It was this giant, incredibly powerful hurricane, the lowest pressure ever recorded in an Atlantic hurricane, 882 millibars, with a 2.3 mile wide eye. And if you talk about the largest, Wilma is right up there for the largest. When it unspooled and it was coming over South Florida, it was very large in the 60-mile range, but the actual largest was something called Hurricane Larry. There's just a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and anyway, it was out in the Atlantic and estimated by satellite. But Wilma is really the weirdo hurricane.
Yeah,
that
do you remember what Larry's was?
Small, 70
miles wide.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in diameter, pretty good. The same one from Germany. Have hurricanes impacted Europe?
Hurricanes, not directly as hurricanes. Remember, hurricanes are tropical systems. But just a few years ago, there was a storm named Kirk that was still very, very strong when it got to the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal and Spain. And very often, storms that arc north end up being strong storms when they get to Ireland and the UK. Right, but they're not tropical systems anymore. So, as far as I know, there are no tropical hurricanes that have gotten to Europe. There are, tropical storms that have gotten very close and died out, and been in the air. In 2005, we had one of those, but the hurricanes don't.
We got strong storms in the Mediterranean, the Medicanes.
The Medicanes,
right?
yes.
We have those. Those are good.
Yeah.
All right, this one from Charleston. Here we go. Ed says, why do hurricanes hitting the East Coast always seem to hit north of the predicted spot at 24 hours out?
Well, it's an interesting thing because the storms, the errors in forecast historically have been a little to the right and forward of where the forecast point is. And obviously the effort is to put the point right where it's going to be, but that's been the average error. It's just the way it works out. And so storms that turn to the north tend to recurve a little bit farther to the right than they might otherwise. Not always. Hurricane Andrew, people in South Florida thought that they knew that this was coming on the county line between Miami-Dade and Broward County, and it suddenly turned left and went to Homestead. That's not what happened. It never was forecast to actually go to the county line. But the forecast was migrating south down the coast, and the forecast was actually perfect 30 hours out. But earlier on the Saturday, more than 30 hours out, it was way up the coast, like Boca. And then before that, it was north of there, and originally it was up in Central Florida. So it doesn't always happen, but it's an interesting observation.
Yeah, it's a good point. What about the next one coming in? We've got the QR code on the bottom of your screen. You can get that one. Jeff from Fort Pierce, Florida. Will the Saffir-Simpson scale ever be modified to reflect the possibility of a Category 6 storm?
I think the answer is no, because the Saffir-Simpson scale is really there to describe the damage that's done. And a Category 5, according to the scale, is catastrophic damage.
Yeah.
So what's the word you use beyond catastrophic damage to describe what a Category 6 would do? Now, some folks have proposed that we should have a Category 6 just based on wind speed. The idea being that when storms get up to 185 miles per hour, the level of damage is super extreme. But the problem with that is that it's really not the sustained winds that do the damage, it's the gusts. And what we're going to move more toward looking at gusts and understanding gusts. I can tell you, anybody that lived through Hurricane Andrew said, my door blew in and I heard it go woo, like that. They heard the gust. So I don't think we're going to see a Category 6, and I think that just in general, in discussing how strong storms are, we're going to talk more about gusts because that's what does the damage.
I do love you answering that question.
Yeah.
You answered always perfectly the same way. I don't think so. Anyway, Justin G. from Fremont asks, would it be possible to launch a rocket loaded with an atmospheric agent into a hurricane or tornado to disrupt it? Hashtag long shot.
Yeah. Well, so the answer is, from a hurricane standpoint, no, because the amount of energy in a hurricane is multiple nuclear bombs. And of course, last thing you want to do is have radiation being
dispersed perfectly across the atmosphere if you try to nuke a hurricane. Not a great idea.
But the thing is that a nuclear bomb in terms of energy is only a fraction of what's in a big hurricane. In tornadoes, I think we have a lot of the same concerns about tornadoes. You can see there, this is from Hurricane Melissa from the Hurricane Hunters. It's just this magnificent, monstrous machine. It is a heat engine.
And it breathes. When you look at the satellite, it literally breathes. It gets eyewall replacements and whatnot. But okay, it's a good question. We get that a lot too. Can you nuke a hurricane? Not a great idea. In your opinion, Brian, what concerns you most, the size of the storm or the millibars?
Well, Dr. Phil Klotzbach has done research on this, and what he's found is that the millibars, or the pressure, the central pressure, correlates well with the damage done. So if you have a small storm, but it's very strong, in other words, the pressure is very, very low, that's going to do damage. If you have a big storm that's maybe not as strong, Sandy was the example, had super low pressure, 944 millibars, right? But it was only a Category 1 strength storm, did tremendous damage.
Exactly.
So the pressure is a really good indication of how much damage is going to be done, but you can have just mega damage by small storms and large storms.
Good one, Nick from Warner Robins. All right, next one. Amanda from Coral Springs, are we still tracking to possibly experience the strongest Super El Nino in modern history this year?
Well, the forecasts indicate that we're going to make a run at it. Now, remember, the El Ninos peak late in the year, like around Christmas time. The reason it's called El Nino is because in Spanish, if you put capitals on that, you don't mean the son or the child, or you mean the Christ child. And because it peaks around Christmas time, and the Peruvian fishermen noticed that their fish weren't working right because the ocean was so warm around Christmas time. So that's why it's named that, and that's when it peaks. But it also tends to end the hurricane season early because it's getting stronger and stronger. Now, the question was about the Super El Nino.
Right.
So if you look at the chart there and you look at the average and you draw that with your eye, you go over, it's pretty close to 2 degrees Celsius. Look at the left side of the screen. Well, I actually have the control here. So if you look here, 2 degrees Celsius, and you draw that across there, you can see the yellow line, the average is just above that. That would be what is properly called a very strong El Nino.
Right.
We're calling it a Super El Nino. Everybody's calling it.
So the latest forecast, though, is average has gone up from where we were thinking in April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. So the El Nino is coming on strong.
Yeah. So the forecast is still going on for us.
It's still for that, but it is later in the year when it peaks. But if cross your fingers, that it means that the odds of the hurricane season ending early are higher than they would otherwise be.
Fingers crossed, right? That'd be great. All right, next question. Daniel from Aiken, South Carolina. What were the major factors in Hurricane Helene being able to go so far inland and remain powerful in areas that almost never see any kind of severe storms like that?
So Helene is a really an excellent question, because here's my disappointment with the folks in Western North Carolina. In 1916, there were 2 tropical systems that came and converged up there and caused this massive flood in Asheville and in the valleys there, right? Almost exactly like Helene, because Helene, it wasn't just Helene. It was the predecessor event before, so it was a double-barreled event too, right?
That was 6 inches of rain before Helene even got there.
Even got there, right. In fact, some places had up near a foot up and down. So that's the first thing. But the reason that Helene was just so horrendous and caused tremendous winds all the way into Augusta and up there in the mountains, as well as the rain, is because it was so large. So large storms, large diameter storms, don't spin down as fast, and when they move over the land, the winds, because they're not turning so much, they're kind of they're more linear, right? And they get gusty as they go in. So the gust factor, the difference between the sustained winds and the gusts, increases, and by the time I got up to North Georgia and the Carolinas, the gusts were extreme.
Aerial coverage-wise, that was a large storm.
It was a huge storm, because remember, we talk about the Central American gyre, the big low-pressure system over Central America. I mean, normally a little chunk of that spins off, like with Michael, right? A little chunk of it spun off and became Michael, and it moved north. In this case, almost the entire gyre became the hurricane. So it started out as a really large circulation. There you see, how big it was in diameter. So you're moving all that energy forward. It just doesn't spin down very fast, so it just survives longer.
Yeah, a lot of inertia with it for sure. Yeah. Hey, stick around with you guys, everybody. Stick where you are. We've got the QR code right there on your screen. Scan that, ask some questions, and we'll be right back with the king of the hurricanes, Bryan Norcross. Herr Norcross, after asking the German question. Yeah. Good stuff, everybody. We'll be right back with more answers for you.
Fox Weather's Hurricane HQ is presented by Belfour Property Restoration, restoring more than property.
Are you one of 70 million Americans suffering from poor sleep every night? Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. In my 50 years as a journalist, I've never endorsed a national product, but this one has made such a difference that I have to do it. It's called Relaxium Sleep, America's #1 doctor-developed sleep aid. Now, I've reviewed the research, and since I've started taking Relaxium myself, I can tell you it works. A great night's sleep is the foundation of your health. Without it, your energy plummets, your focus fades, and your mood suffers. And over time, your very quality of life can be stolen from you. Relaxium Sleep was created by a clinical neurologist, has been studied, tested, and trusted to work. It is non-habit forming. It's made in the USA.
As a clinical neurologist, I know how essential sleep is for building and nourishing both your mental and physical health. Relaxium Sleep's multi-ingredient triple-action formula helps to regulate the natural sleep cycle, relax the body, and calm the mind. Its ingredients address the root causes of sleeplessness and is guaranteed to work the very first night.
Relaxium helps me fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, wake up refreshed. And for a guy like me, always on the go, a good night's sleep is very important.
I'm so incredibly thankful that for nearly 2 decades now, Relaxium Sleep has been changing millions of lives. If you're experiencing sleepless nights or tossing and turning, you need to try Relaxium Sleep now and improve your quality of life.
So why are we still talking about this? Why haven't you picked up the phone? Get your best night of sleep guaranteed. Please call now. Get your first bottle risk-free. Let's make America sleep again.
Bill O'Reilly is so confident that Relaxium Sleep will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles today. Get your risk-free bottle of Relaxium Sleep now. Visit TryRelaxium.com or call 800-909-0488. That's TryRelaxium.com or call 800-909-0488.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
I used to go for walks every morning, and then my arthritis got so bad it just became unbearable. I tried nearly everything to alleviate my pain, and the only thing that worked is the Hempvana Arthritis Pain Relief Gel. All I do is apply it to my feet and my ankles daily, and it provides almost immediate relief.
Hempvana Arthritis is the ultra-strength pain relief gel that specifically targets the pain caused by arthritis in your hands, shoulders, knees, ankles, wrists, and more. Available at Walmart, Hempvana.com, CVS, and on Amazon with free shipping.
Welcome back into Hurricane HQ&A. Bob Van Dillen. We've got a hurricane specialist, Bryan Norcross, right here. We'll get right into the questions. You can still scan them out there with the QR code. This one is pretty good one right there. This is Georgia. It's where I've been living for the last 25 years. I always want to know this one as well. How far inland would storm surge rise if a massive hurricane hit directly into the Georgia coast? From Gracie in Jessup.
So I don't know the answer in miles, but a long way, because the water in Hurricane 1898 really is the hurricane of record for southeast Georgia.
How do you remember that one?
Yeah, well, because Georgia is kind of this tucked in place there, so like, it's hard to get a hurricane directly in there. But if one happens to arc in that direction, all those islands are low islands. The water is coming over those islands, and it's going up the rivers. That's the main thing. That will bring it inland. So you have, Savannah is vulnerable.
Tybee Island, right?
Tybee Island, and all those places along the coast. So, yeah, it is a place that if a hurricane is forecast to come that way, there are going to be massive evacuations along the Georgia coast.
All right, great question out there from Georgia. Next one coming in right now, we've got Andrew from Miami. Andrew in Miami, it's the actual hurricane. Here we go. I was born the day Hurricane Andrew hit in Miami and was named after it. I am from Miami. What is the most fascinating thing about this particular hurricane?
Well, boy, there are a lot of fascinating things. And after that hurricane, maybe I got a picture of you as a baby because people sent me pictures of their babies and their dogs that they named Andrew, or in some cases they named Bryan actually. But that's okay. Anyway, it was a big honor in any case.
Not a lot of Norcross kids.
No, there were no Norcrosses that I know of. But where do you start with Hurricane Andrew? I mean, I think that. I saw all these incredible things that you never would imagine.
You mentioned the palm trees getting split by two
imagine, all that kind of thing. But also, we lost 15 people in Hurricane Andrew. And nobody imagined after seeing this complete devastation. I mean, it's like an EF5 tornado, but 20 miles wide, right? That people would have survived. But I came to know many of them that were in their houses, concrete block houses that collapsed around them, but they got under a mattress and the family survived. My friends, the Zinn family in Homestead that went through it, and talked to them over the years many times. We had them actually on the anniversary of Andrew here on Fox Weather. You can survive the wind is the thing. It was a windstorm, and where the big storm surge was 17 feet of storm surge.
Yeah, so you're saying it could have been a lot worse.
But that happened to hit the least populated part there. So, I mean, it was a miraculous set of conditions and events that all came together on that early morning.
All right, next one. We got this one up. This is Jen in Denver. What hurricane was the most difficult to forecast? In general for you, this has got to be a great question.
Well,
some of them make you pull your hair out. No question.
There have been a number of them, but the one that comes to mind is Joaquin. Joaquin was 2016, was it? In any case, Joaquin was down well north of the Bahamas and was forecast by the American model, the GFS model, to go up into the Carolinas, and by the European model to go to United Kingdom. To kind of, so there was this.
There you go. It was 2015.
By 2015. Okay. And what it did instead is it backed up over the central Bahamas.
Yep.
It was not forecast to go south. It was forecast to go north. And it just devastated the central Bahamas there. And then when it finally went north, then it put a lot of that moisture ended up in the Carolinas with a big flood. And anyway, we had no idea where that storm was going. It was tragic. There was a ship that sunk because it thought it could duck under the storm, and left Jacksonville and never made it to Puerto Rico.
Do you remember that?
So anyway, that
Joaquin.
storm, we had no clue. But it was a testament to when a storm is moving slowly, the forecasts are much less certain.
Yeah, so the faster forward speed, the easier the forecast where it's going to go.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, next question from Michelle in Limestone. When was the last time Maine had a hurricane? Now, I was in one. I don't remember if it was a hurricane when it actually hit. It was 2023.
Yeah, but it didn't hit. Remember, it was Lee, right?
Lee, yep,
Lee. It stayed offshore and it went into Nova Scotia. Right. Now, so the storm of record there is sort of Hurricane Edna from 1954. I remember I talked about the 1954 and 55 hurricanes
that streak
that went north, and there was Carol and Edna up into Maine. But it doesn't happen very often, but there have been a lot of hurricane effects, including 1960 Donna, and then going way back, there were big effects from the 1938, the great 1938 hurricane that hit Long Island and into New England, and then way back, the 1815 hurricane that Maine was on the bad side of those storms and lost a lot of lumber in those storms. So usually the water is just cold up there. So unless the storm is moving fast, it's not going to be at hurricane strength.
Good question. New England storm right there. All right, next question. Spencer from New York. Do you think the NHC will start prioritizing warning impacts over the cone? Yeah,
they're doing it. As a matter of fact, this year it's actually operational. When you look at the cone this year, if the storm is forecast to hit land, and of course if it's forecast to hit land, there's going to be warnings or watches or whatever along the coast and inland, you're going to see them all on the cone graphic. You don't just see the cone anymore, because I can tell you, so when I started the cone back in the 90s, I only used it offshore. As soon as the storm was coming near Florida, I would only show the warnings. Now, we can't do that. The Hurricane Center can't do that because the storm has other places to go after it crosses the peninsula or whatever, right? But anyway, that's the idea. The idea is exactly what you're talking about in that question, is we want people to focus on where the impacts are going to be, and that are almost always well outside of the cone. So that's what all the warnings are about. Where is the danger? The danger zone is where the warnings are issued. So there you see the Hurricane Center was there just the other day. And they emphasize this. Don't pay attention to the cone when the storm is near land.
Yeah,
pay attention to the warnings.
Yeah, it's all about the messaging. So Spencer asked a question last year too. Yeah, I remember. All right, how about this one? Nick from Melbourne. It seems like East Central Florida, north of Fort Pierce, is protected from direct hurricane hits. How likely is it for a direct hit based on history, the Gulf Stream, and the curvature of Florida itself mitigating a direct hit in this area?
Yeah, it doesn't happen as often. It's because the state of Florida kind of leans back, right? And so storms are generally turning north, so you don't have it's nothing head on to hit in general. However, there have certainly been storms in the Melbourne area. I grew up in the Melbourne area, by the way. And we had 1964 Hurricane Dora that ran right into Jacksonville, just south of Jacksonville, actually. So it happens. It just doesn't happen as often. You're more likely in that part of the world to get a hurricane moving from the south, and we've been kind of lucky. If you remember, so in 1999, Hurricane Floyd the Melbourne area, the beaches and all, were all evacuated along with a good part of Florida because the storm was arcing to the north, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they had this huge evacuation. Dorian, the one that hit the Bahamas, right? You see it turned to the north. Matthew went just parallel. So if any of those storms were just a little bit to the left,
it would have been
they would have been very, very bad in East Central Florida. You know, they've been lucky that the big storms have been just far enough.
It's a good question, though, about the curvature of Florida, for sure.
Exactly.
All right, one more. We got Donna from Southfield, Michigan. In which direction do hurricanes spin?
Well, the hurricanes always spin counterclockwise because hurricanes are only in the northern hemisphere and only in the Atlantic and the eastern and central Pacific. When you get to the western Pacific, they're typhoons. But if you go south of the equator, they spin the other way, and they're called cyclones. So hurricanes always spin counterclockwise.
Very good. All right, another question. Janet Davis from Mattoon, Illinois. Would there be a Cat 6 hurricane this year?
Yeah.
Well,
well, I don't think there's going to be a Cat 6, but could there be a super strong hurricane this year? Absolutely. You know, the odds are in an El Nino year, you don't get as many storms, and the storms you get are not as strong. Has there been yes, there's been Category 5, 2018, right?
Yeah, that was the Michael. Yeah, up there in the Panhandle.
So you can get a very strong storm if it's not too big and it's moving kind of quickly and it doesn't and it forms quickly because the weather pattern generally doesn't stay conducive for very long. So, but yes, it can happen. Thankfully, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, thank goodness. All right, here we go. Janet from Germany again. How does the Fujiwara effect impact hurricane behavior, and how challenging does it make for forecasting?
Well, the Fujiwara effect is a name for a Japanese scientist, Fujiwara,
right?
Surprisingly,
right?
But his research was about just vortices in a fluid. And he found that when two vortices are spinning and they come close to each other, that they rotate around each other. So if you have two hurricanes that are exactly the equal strength, they will rotate around each other in a counterclockwise direction. The models pick up on this. They do pretty well of it. The tricky thing is we don't always know the relative strength. And the relative strength dictates how exactly they move relative to each other. But no, they don't bump into each other.
No, but in space they generally do that, and then they combine.
Sometimes they do, yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that one. All right, last one. Well, anyway, that was the Fujiwara. Whenever you do it, here we go. Last one. Do you think we will ever see a west to east track like Sandy at the Jersey Shore again?
Yeah, I think we will because it's happened before. It
Yeah.
happened in 1903. It happened other times. So yes, the answer is everybody be prepared.
Absolutely. Great stuff, everybody. Thanks for all the questions. We are your Hurricane HQ. Bryan Norcross, awesome. You are the king of this stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. Fox Weather is going to be right back.
Fox Weather's Hurricane HQ is presented by Belfour Property Restoration, restoring more than property.
Are you one of